Accepted a dead flower from a homeless man before my birthday. My boyfriend shattered my phone, and now he won't speak to me. My birthday was a couple of days ago and I haven't spoken to him since. I'm heartbroken about this. I was walking home with my boyfriend and we passed a group of homeless people. One of them said, "Here you go, miss you, since you're the first woman who walked by and gave me a dead flower." It was around 10 p.m. and my birthday was at midnight, so it kind of felt special to me. I said, "Thank you so much," and kept walking. My BF didn't say anything, so I didn't think anything was wrong. I took my phone to take a video of the flower and tell my friend what just happened, and he tried taking my phone. I was laughing and asked what he's doing and didn't answer, just kept walking next to me. He looked a little annoyed, but I still wanted to get a video with the flower, so I pulled my phone out again. This time, he hit my hand really hard and made me drop my phone on the concrete. My phone screen is completely broken. Luckily, it's the screen protector, but still, it's all shattered. I screamed, "Why did you do that?" and he took my flower and threw it on the road. He said that's what I get for embarrassing him like that. I was tearing up because 1. He broke my phone. 2. He threw my flower away. 3. I couldn't understand what I did wrong. He made me delete the video with the flower in front of him and we walked in silence the rest of the time. At home, I blew up at him. I was crying, screaming, asking him why he did that. Literally an hour before my birthday. He said, "How would you feel if a girl just came up to me in front of you to give me a flower?" I said, "If it were the same homeless woman that you see almost every day when you walk in your neighborhood, I wouldn't mind. We have walked by this specific man plenty of times." He called me a liar, then said I was manipulative to try to invalidate his feelings when I was blandly disrespecting him in front of men. I don't understand how it's disrespectful. I wasn't even going to keep the damn thing. It was a dead flower. I just thought it was cool because that had never happened to me, especially 2 hours before my birthday. He said a bunch of stuff, basically that I was an attention whore. I was sobbing. It was already my birthday and I felt like shit. We went to sleep without talking and the next morning he was gone. I had a brunch with my friends, so I had my mind distracted for a couple of hours, but it was still in the back of my mind. I still don't know who's 100% in the wrong here. Maybe I shouldn't have accepted the flower, but I honestly saw it as an innocent thing. He still won't talk to me. Even his siblings wished me a happy birthday, but he hasn't yet. Update 1. I broke up with him. To be honest, I still love him and I'm trying to cut all communication, because I know that if he contacts me again, I'll most likely go back. I literally made a list of all the reasons why he sucks and I try to read it every time I want to text him, lol. Here's the update. He surprised me with my favorite flowers and a letter. He wished me happy birthday and apologized for his reaction. He said he was being immature and it won't happen again. He said we should work on communicating each other's boundaries better. He also apologized for ghosting me for a few days. He said he just needed some time to cool down. Not going to lie, I just wanted my boyfriend back, so I accepted the apology under the condition that he will never do anything like that again. He swore on his life that he'll never make me cry ever again. I genuinely saw a shift in his personality. He was even better than when I first fell for him. Like one time, we were cuddling and talking about our relationship. He literally started crying while professing his love to me. He said that he knows that sometimes he gets frustrated over little things, but it's because he loves me so much and he's terrified to lose me. He shared so many things about his past. He had never opened up to me before, so it really felt like the relationship grew stronger. We went to the beach as a little birthday celebration for me with his friends. We were 6 in total and I was the only girl. 2 other girls were supposed to come too, but they had work. I didn't know that until I asked one of the guys and he told me. Long story short, he got mad at me for wearing a bikini. He was like, "WTF do I look like having my girl walk around half naked like a hoe in front of everyone?" I reminded him that we're at the beach and a lot of people wear bikinis at the beach. He said that it's different because I'm the only girl here with 5 guys and it makes me look bad. I said I didn't care and went back to everyone. After a little while, he pulled me to the side again. He called me names, said that one of his friends obviously wants to fuck me but I'm too fucking dumb to see it. He said he overheard him. I don't think this is true, but He was very angry, but also he had been drinking, so it could explain his irrationalness. I started crying, then went home because I didn't want people to see me like that. He was being so weird. I don't know why he was being aggressive all of a sudden. Like before the flower incident, he had never used that kind of language with me, especially in public. He came over that night to talk about what happened. I was so hurt. I honestly thought we had grown closer. We both explained our side of the situation. I told him I wasn't trying to get anyone's attention by wearing a bikini and I can kind of understand his point of view. BC was a little uncomfortable too, being the only girl there. He said I could have put my clothes back on but I had to stay in a bikini. He said I looked like a hoe waiting to get fucked when I was laying on my stomach tanning. I can't really remember what he said after that. I was just so hurt. We were going in circles, so we decided to just go to bed. He then tried to initiate sex, which just pissed me off. I said no every time. I heard him say something about me being an annoying ass bitch under his breath and that was the last straw. I kicked him out and broke up with him. It wasn't easy. He was crying and screaming the whole time. He even punched a wall in my room. I was terrified. I never thought he could do that. We had never fought like that before. He finally left when I dialed 911 and threatened to call. I don't know why I still love him so much. I understand his reactions, knowing his past and what he's been through, and it's a lot, trust me. I know it's not an excuse, but it's still an explanation, right? Anyway, it's over now. Half of my stuff is still at his house. I don't even want to think about it right now. He's blocked. I am really trying to villainize him in my mind so I can move on, but it's hard when all I can think of is the amazing moments we shared. Like how he was crying in my arms telling me he loves me more than life, the day he asked me to be his girlfriend or the day he gave me a promise ring. Maybe I did go wrong somewhere. It's just so crazy to think that all of this could have been avoided if I hadn't accepted the flower. Also, I am very aware that I'm dumb for thinking that he could change so quick. I just wanted my boyfriend back. Update 2. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I went back one more time. I know it was a stupid choice. It's hard to explain. It's like he has a hold on me. At first, it was just about the sex, nothing more. We didn't want to completely cut each other off, but I didn't want to officially get back together or start meeting new people, so we agreed this would be the best option. And for a while, it actually worked. After the 5th or 6th time, we decided to try getting back together, but to do it right this time. I laid out my boundaries: no yelling, no cursing at me, no hitting, no going through my stuff, and being respectful. I made it clear that if he crossed any of these lines, I would leave him. I told him I wasn't his emotional punching bag and that just because he's been through a lot doesn't mean he can take it out on me, especially since I've never treated him that way. He agreed to everything and shared his own boundaries with me: no yelling, being respectful, modesty, and not going through his stuff. I also read some comments about how punching a wall can be the first step to punching someone, so I told him that could never happen again. He agreed and even booked a therapy appointment. He's really committed to self-improvement. Anger and impulsiveness are his only real issues. We both wanted this to work. Our anniversary is coming up, and I didn't want to break up right before it. Things were going fine until he sent me a TikTok of my post and accused me of exaggerating everything, basically calling me a liar. I'm attaching some screenshots because to this day, I still don't understand why he was saying all that. I got mad and called him, and we ended up screaming at each other on the phone. I felt like he was making everything about himself again and dismissing my feelings because he was embarrassed. He came over with my stuff and broke up with me, insulting me the whole time. I didn't want things to end like that, so I asked him to stay and talk. Long story short, we ended up screaming at each other again, and he broke my MacBook. I'm so done. Luckily, I'm not going to school this semester, so I won't really need it, but he still broke it. Like, what the fuck? I'm reading the book that was recommended to me, and it's hard to accept that my boyfriend is one of those people. I'm glad he broke up with me. I know he's not good for me. He hates me now, and it's for the best. I know he won't bother me again, and I have no reason to talk to him now that I have my stuff back. I'm still learning a lot, like what love bombing is. I didn't even know that's what he was doing. I know I'm naive, and that's why I want to stay single for a while. I don't want to end up in this situation again. Update 3. After that night, I completely cut him off. Blocked his number, deleted every photo, and even threw away the promise ring he gave me. It wasn't easy. I felt like I was cutting off a piece of myself. But deep down, I knew I couldn't let him keep this hold on me. I started therapy, which was a game changer. My therapist helped me unpack everything: why I stayed so long, why I kept going back, and how to finally break the cycle. About a month after the breakup, he tried to reach out through mutual friends. One of them told me he was going through a lot and needed closure. Closure? I laughed when I heard that. He got his closure when he smashed my MacBook and stormed out of my life. I politely told my friend to let him know that if he really cared about closure, he could explain it to his therapist instead of dragging me back into his chaos. But, of course, it didn't stop there. A few days later, he showed up outside my apartment. He had flowers, ironic, right? And a handwritten letter. He begged me to give him 5 minutes to talk. I was so proud of myself for not opening the door. Instead, I told him through the intercom that he needed to leave or I'd call the cops. I could hear the desperation in his voice as he pleaded, but I stood firm. He eventually left, and I haven't heard from him since. In the meantime, I've been focusing on myself. I started a new hobby: pottery. It sounds random, but there's something incredibly therapeutic about molding clay and creating something beautiful with your hands. I also reconnected with old friends and even went on a solo trip to the mountains. It felt so empowering to do something just for me without worrying about anyone else's feelings or judgments. One thing I've realized is how much I've grown since this whole mess began. I used to think love was about sacrificing everything for the other person, but now I know that love should never come at the expense of your peace, your dignity, or your safety. I've learned to set boundaries and to recognize red flags before they turn into giant, waving banners of doom. Oh, and here's the kicker: I found out through mutual friends that he's already dating someone else. At first, I felt sick to my stomach, wondering if she knew what she was getting herself into. But then I realized it's not my job to save anyone but myself. I just hope she figures out what I did sooner rather than later. If there's one thing I want everyone to take away from my story, it's this: trust your gut. If someone makes you feel small, scared, or unsure of your worth, they're not the one for you. No matter how much you love them or how much they claim to love you, real love doesn't hurt like that. So, here I am, a little bruised but not broken. I'm learning to love myself in ways I never thought possible. And while I still have moments where I miss the good times, I remind myself that those moments were fleeting, like flowers handed out on the street. Beautiful, maybe, but ultimately fragile and not meant to last. Update 4. Hey everyone. So, I genuinely thought my story was over, but life apparently had a few more plot twists in store for me. If you've been following my saga, you're probably thinking, what could possibly happen next? Oh, just wait. I'm not even sure how to process half of this, but here goes. About a month after my last update, I was really settling into my single, peaceful life. I'd picked up more hobbies, started a yoga class, and even joined a book club. I was doing great, until he popped back into my life in the most unhinged way possible. It started with a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I usually don't answer unknown numbers, but something told me to pick up. Big mistake. It was him. He started rambling about how he's changed, how he's been in therapy, and how he's found God. I didn't say a word, I just hung up and blocked the number. I thought that was the end of it. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The next day, I came home to find a letter taped to my apartment door. It was from him. It wasn't your typical "I'm sorry, take me back" letter. Oh no. This man wrote a manifesto. He apologized for everything but then claimed that I'd ruined his life by leaving him. He said he was working on a plan to prove to me that we were meant to be. The whole thing gave me chills, especially the part where he said, "I'll do whatever it takes to make you see." I reported it to the police because, honestly, it felt like the beginning of a true crime documentary. They took it seriously, especially when I mentioned the MacBook smashing incident. They suggested I stay somewhere else for a while, so I packed a bag and went to my best friend's house. A week later, things escalated. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw a new account had tagged me in a post. It was him. He'd created an entire page dedicated to our love story. There were old pictures of us, screenshots of text messages, some completely fabricated, and even videos he'd taken without my knowledge. In one post, he claimed we were taking a break to rebuild stronger than ever. I reported the account, but before it got taken down, I saw the final post he made. It was a picture of a tattoo he'd gotten on his arm. It was my name. Not just my name, it was my name with the word "forever" underneath it. At this point, I was half terrified, half ready to hire a private investigator to dig up any skeletons in his closet. But the craziest part? The tattoo artist messaged me. She saw my Instagram story about the whole thing and reached out to tell me that he'd spent the entire session talking about me like I was his wife. She said she'd been uncomfortable but didn't know how to stop him. Meanwhile, I'd been staying vigilant, keeping my location private and sticking to a tight circle of friends. But somehow, he managed to find out where I was. One night, as I was leaving my yoga class, I spotted his car parked across the street. I didn't panic. I walked to my car, locked the doors, and called the police. They showed up, but by the time they arrived, he was gone. Here's where it gets even crazier. A few days later, I got a call from one of his friends. She said she was worried about him because he'd been acting erratically and planning something big. She didn't know what it was but thought I should be careful. She also admitted that he'd been drinking heavily and had mentioned driving out of state to get some clarity. I decided enough was enough. I got a restraining order. The process wasn't easy, reliving everything was emotionally draining, but it was worth it. The order was granted, and for the first time in months, I felt a tiny bit of relief. Then came the final twist, at least for now. I found out he was arrested. Apparently, after he was served the restraining order, he showed up at his ex-girlfriend's house, yes, the one before me, and caused a huge scene. He tried to convince her that she was the real love of his life and that she needed to help him win me back. She wasn't having it and called the cops. So, as of now, he's out of my life for good, I hope. I've been working with a therapist to process everything, and I've learned so much about myself and what I want in a partner. I'm also exploring legal options to ensure my safety long term. If you've read this far, thank you for sticking with me. I'm genuinely hoping this is the end of my Dateline chapter and the beginning of a peaceful, drama-free life. Lesson learned, some people don't just wave red flags, they set up an entire circus. Now on to second story. Mother-in-law asked us to hide our marriage over Christmas, fearing her aging parents' disapproval, sparking tension with my husband. My husband and I have been together for 3 years and married for 6 months. He came out to his parents shortly before Christmas of 2012 and they were very accepting of him and completely welcoming to me. I met them that Christmas and they're both awesome human beings and have made me feel like part of their family over the last 2 years. We live a couple of states away from them and visit them several times a year. This year will be the 3rd year we go for Christmas and there will be many other family members visiting, most of which I've never met. Among these will be my mother-in-law's parents who are very old-fashioned in their beliefs and wouldn't take it well if they found out their grandson is gay, as per my mother-in-law. Due to circumstances irrelevant to this post, my mill doesn't get to see them often and hasn't seen them in several years. She doesn't want to upset them during this visit if she can avoid it, since they are of old age and in somewhat poor health. Though my father-in-law hasn't voiced his opinion on the matter, I'm fairly certain he is on the same page. For those reasons, today my Mill asked us to be discreet and pretend we are just friends when we visit for Christmas. My husband was pretty upset about it and had an argument over the phone with his mom which resulted in him hanging up on her. On one hand, I can understand why he is upset and agree that we shouldn't have to hide who we are, regardless of how others may react. In his eyes, his grandparents should accept him and love him no matter what, and he doesn't want to go back to pretending to be something he is not for the sake of others' feelings. On the other hand, I would hate to be the cause of his grandparents getting upset with my husband or Mill, or give her any grief for her grandson's lifestyle, or even worse, be the cause of any complications in their health. After all, we are the visitors in their home, and as somewhat of an outsider I think I should follow their wishes under their roof. I completely understand that this isn't coming from any bad place in her heart. On the contrary, she has been like a mother to me. She is only trying to look out for her parents and avoid any complications or upsetting them during the few days she can see them. It's only for 1 week, so it might be doable. Both of us look and act masculine, and even after 2 years I still feel awkward showing my husband any affection in front of his parents. Regardless of his grandparents' presence, I have no intention of making out with my husband or anything of that sort in front of anyone there. My fear is that I will struggle to call my husband by his first name instead of one of the many pet names we have for each other. It feels unnatural to start calling him by his first name and to pretend we are just friends. Same goes for my father-in-law, whom I have always called suegro in Spanish, which is a word that means father-in-law, and the last thing I want is to call him that in front of the grandparents and cause a most awkward and embarrassing situation. I would also have to make up an explanation in case they ask why I decided to join my friend's family for Christmas vacation, and I can already see me tripping all over myself with nervousness trying to explain whatever I rehearsed. We will also have to sleep separately, since we're sleeping in the living room, as all the bedrooms are spoken for. Other than my Mill's parents, there will also be several aunts and uncles, but half of them are okay with my husband being gay, and the ones that don't know aren't likely to make a big deal out of it, from what my husband tells me. Update 1. First, huge thanks to everyone who offered words of advice and encouragement. It really helped. My husband read all your suggestions and responses, and he was torn between what to do, but I gave him my full support with whatever he chose. He decided to reach out to his aunt, who was the one bringing the grandparents with her. Let's call her Martha, since that's her name. Martha has my husband on Facebook and knows he's gay and accepts him. My husband sent Martha a message asking if she knew if the grandparents had any idea about him or if any rumors about our marriage already made it to their ears. She said they had heard rumors of him and didn't take it too great. Grandma made comments about it being a tragedy to the family and feeling sorry for my Mill. Martha told her that it's every mother's wish to see her children happy, and if my husband was happy, there's nobody to feel sorry about. She assured my husband that she would prepare both grandparents with the news that we would also be there for Christmas week and advise them to keep their personal opinions to themselves. They arrived to Phoenix one day after we did, and I awkwardly introduced myself by name. I didn't mention who I was or why I was in that house with their family. I just let it be assumed that I was the guy my husband married. His aunts were super welcoming and accepting, and his grandparents were very kind. The question of who I was never came up. It was a don't ask, don't tell situation for the whole week, and everyone was just fine with it. I wasn't affectionate with my husband in front of his family, but that was regardless of his grandparents' presence. I still called my Phil by suegro, which means father-in-law, even in front of all the family, and nobody seemed to mind at all. I didn't interact with the grandparents too much, except to ask if they needed anything. They are very weak and would spend most of the day being helped to their bed or downstairs to sit in the living room. They didn't go out much either because they thought it was too cold and would get tired quickly. I only shared a bit of casual conversation with both, and they were very kind to me and both gave me a hug when they parted back home. The closest there was to any drama was a point in which the grandpa made a comment during a conversation about a relative of theirs not being fit to raise his daughter due to his lifestyle, referring to some gay uncle who lives in Mexico. I didn't personally hear it, but my husband's aunt came to me to ask me not pay any mind to the old man's opinions and understand he is just stuck in his old ideas. I later learned why, but it wasn't a big deal.